quilty friends, Carolina Moore, your favorite sewing and quilting YouTuber, and I want to wish you a happy new year. Welcome to 2024. Have you made your New Year's resolutions? Do you know what you have planned for this year? If you don't, that's totally okay. And if you do, I'm so excited for you. Leave them down in the comments. I want to read all about your quilty goals. And there's studies that say that if you write down your goals, that you are more likely to achieve them. So if you write them down in my comments, then maybe they'll come true, and I can't wait to cheer you on. All right, friends, we're going to do block 1 of our 2024 9-patch block of the month. You ready? Let's get started. Okay, so I have my pieces all cut out, and we are going to jump right in. We're going to grab our smallest square, and we're going to grab our second to largest square. These are the two sizes that we need for putting this together. And on the back of these, we can draw a line. So I'm going to show you 3 different ways to draw a line. I'm not going to do this in all of the upcoming videos where we're drawing a line, but we'll show that right here. The first is you can just draw a diagonal line on the back using any ruler or straight edge. And now you have a line to stitch on. The second way is that you can use this Creative Grids ruler. This ruler is really great if you want to draw a line on either side of the middle to stitch on. In this case, we just need one in the middle. And since we just need one in the middle, it's actually not that great because a big piece gets skipped out. So I would use actually the edge of this ruler to draw my line instead of using the middle. There we go. And I'll show you in a little bit why we would use the middle and the sides. Okay, and the other way is we can just have our diagonal seam tape right on our sewing machine, and then we don't need to draw lines at all, which is my favorite. We're going to put just our standard presser foot that does not have a guide on it. I have our 1/4 inch foot with guide that we'll be using later, but I want to use just a regular presser foot so that guide doesn't get in the way. And then we are going to take our square, put our smaller square on top. You can actually pick any one of the 4 corners, it doesn't matter which. And we are going to stitch all the way down. We're going to repeat this process with all of our squares. Now to use diagonal seam tape, you line up one corner of your square right up here with a needle and the other corner of your square right down here with your red line, and you just sew all the way down. And that way it's like the line is drawn for you without you having to actually draw the line. We're going to cut these apart. Now we can add our square on the opposite side. I'm going to trim all these apart. I'm going to move these squares out of the way for now. move my iron because I can use my rotating mat for this next part. If you don't have a rotating mat, you can just spin the block itself. Nope. I need space for my rotating mat to rotate. There we go. And we're just cutting these off. Now you can cut this off with scissors, and you just want a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and scissors is fine. There we go. Now, some people like to sew these together to make little half square triangles that they use in different projects. You totally can, or you can go ahead and recycle these in whatever way you like to repurpose and recycle your fabrics. I'm going to move my rotating mat and bring in my iron. So we're going to press these seams out. In this case, it is towards the lighter fabric, but generally speaking, when we press out towards the outer edges of the block, it helps things square nicer. And also, we're going to have a lot of fabric going on when we add the other two sides, so this will help push some of that bulk out of the block. We have all of the corners on opposite sides, and we have these pressed. Now we're going to add the corners on the opposite two sides, trim those seam allowances, and press, and then we'll come right back here. Okay, we have all of these square and a square units made, and so we can set these aside and we can grab our other fabrics. We're going to jump ahead a little in the instructions as we do this, because we need to cut these on the diagonal as well as those on the diagonal. So as long as I'm cutting, I'm going to cut them both at the same time. I'm trying to get these all lined up on top of each other, so I can do them all at once. There we go. I'm going to just put my ruler on the diagonal and cut through all of them. When you cut, no, it shifted a little bit, but that should be okay. All right, when you cut on the diagonal, you create bias. You create bias stretch. And what that bias stretch can do is it can make your blocks wonky because the fibers aren't holding your fabric square as much as it would with, so fabric on the grain, not so much stretch. Let me just do one layer. Fabric on the grain, not so much stretch, not so much stretch. On the bias, stretch. So we want to be careful whenever we're handling or sewing those seams so that we don't end up with it ballooning out. Okay, we're going to do these squares. So we're going to grab our last blue squares, and what we want to do is put a triangle on there. Now these will hang over the edge, these corner triangles. They're supposed to, it's okay. And you want to sew it on. So we're going to switch out our presser foot for that 1/4 inch foot. There we go. And we can sew this. And we're going to do the same on all of our blue squares. All right, we have triangles on all of our blue squares, and now we're going to press, and we're going to press these out. You want to be careful when handling this fabric because of that bias right there. We're just going to go ahead and press all 4 of them. And now we want to do the same thing, adding a square to the other side. So we're just going to put these right sides together and sew them. This time before pressing, we want to clip off all these dog ears. So we're going to clip like this, and then just like that, just to get all the extra bulk out of these seams. We don't need all that bulk there. So cut, cut, and once that bulk goes out, we're going to go ahead and press. Now we have these large triangles, and they're all going to get paired with these large triangles. So just right sides together. And stitch with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And we're going to do that with all of these sets. Now that we have these all stitched together, we can press, and we're going to press towards this big blue triangle. All right, they are all pressed. You can square these up to 4.5 inches. Or you can just cut off the dog ears depending on your level of perfection on your quilt. For me, this block of the month is a fun, just monthly, simple excuse to sew. So I'm not worried about perfection here. And so I'm just cutting off my dog ears. But you can cut off your dog ears while squaring this up to 4.5 inches if you like. Now we can lay out our block. We have 5 of these and 4 of these. Oh. So now we get to see what the block looks like. I love seeing it in fabric. It looks so good. And we're going to sew this into rows. So the way you sew it into rows is sew these two together, then these two together. And then you're going to add one on, add one on, add one on. And then when we press, you're going to press according to the instructions in the pattern. We'll just press these out, these in, and these out. So we're going to put right sides together and sew up these rows. We have all of our rows done, and we are going to press out on the top and bottom rows and in on the middle row. There we go. And now we just need to sew our 3 rows together. So 2 seams and this block is done. When we put these rows together, because we pressed to the side, we can nest these seams. So you can see this one's going this way, this one's going that way. So that allows us to nest those seams. And we can bring this to our sewing machine and sew this all down. There we go. Just double checking to make sure I didn't accidentally flip this before adding the last row. Now if you want, you can pin this row together. I'm not a big pinner. I like to just feel it with my fingers as I sew it, but there is zero judgment. If you like to pin, you pin. It's that simple. If you like to pin, you pin. I don't like to pin, I don't pin. Now we're going to press these last 2 seams out. Now there are 3 factors that determine a press. It is how high you have the heat on your iron, and I have my heat pretty high. It is how much pressure you put on there, because a little bit of pressure can help as well. and it's how much time. Now, if you don't have a lot of hand strength to be able to do a lot of pressure, then you want to make sure that you are doing good on your heat and the amount of time that you're pressing. And sometimes getting a heavier iron that has some weight to it will help with that pressure. Now, a heavier iron that you're lifting up and down all the time will also do a number on your wrist. So you have to make a judgment call there. Oh, look at that. I love these colors together. There we go. I've got some threads I'm going to pick away. Perfect. Friends, we did it. First block of the 2024 block of the month is done. We have 11 more to go, and then we'll have a full quilt. If this was a little tricky, this is probably one of the hardest blocks. So if you manage to do this, then fabulous. If you measure it and right now it isn't at 12.5 inches, maybe it's a little bigger, maybe it's a little smaller, that's okay. We are not squaring up these blocks yet. We wait till the end when we have all 12 of our blocks and then we square up. I have a whole video on squaring up blocks if you want to watch that and understand different techniques and things we can do to fix this at the end. But we don't know yet what we're fixing until we know what size all of our blocks are. If all of your blocks are a little bigger, then you're going to cut your sashing pieces a little bigger and you'll be fine. Or same thing if they're smaller, just cut your sashing pieces a little smaller and then you'll be fine. If you end up with a little bit of a variety in sizes when you finish, that's not uncommon because this is a 12-month series. We're doing this over the course of a year. And at the end of this year, you are going to be a better quilter than you are right now. That's just how practice works. The more you do it, the better you get. You are going to be a better quilter 12 months from now than you are now. And so maybe at that time, you'll include this block with some coping strips and have it be a marker of your progress over this year. Or maybe you will remake this block because your skills have gotten so much better. It will be up to you at that time, but let's see where you are in 12 months before we make any decisions about this block. For now, it's done. You did it. It looks fabulous. We're going to put it up on the wall. And look forward to when we can have it with 11 friends. That's it for today, my friends. Make sure that you've liked this video. Comment down below how it's going if you enjoyed this block. And make sure you're subscribed to this channel because we have 11 more of these videos plus a finishing video at the end to finish up this quilt. That's it for today, my friends. I will see you right here real soon. Bye for now.